resting Queen will not risk greeting new PM in London as health fears grow. Fears the Queen's health might deteriorate has forced the practical decision to break with tradition and not appoint the next Prime Minister in London. The 96-year monarch will instead greet Boris Johnson and his successor at Balmoral next Tuesday. The Queen took the decision to provide certainty for the new PM's diary by refusing to risk any inconvenience should her mobility issues prevent the need for any last-minute change of plans. It is understood that the decision was taken to provide certainty for the new Prime Minister's diary. The Queen, who is resting on her usual summer break, has suffered from mobility issues, and it is understood the change was made to prevent the need for any last-minute rearrangements. Liz Truss or Rishi Sunak will be announced as leader of the Conservative Party on Monday, with the Foreign Secretary on course to become Britain's 56th PM. The day after Mr. Johnson will make the 1,000-mile round trip to resign as PM before his successor has an audience with the Queen. The new incumbent will be her 15th Prime Minister. The kissing of the hands ceremony will mark the first time a Prime Minister has officially resigned or been appointed away from Buckingham Palace during the Queen's 70-year reign. Although the Queen has delegated many of her roles to other members of the family including Prince Charles and Prince William, there are certain constitutional functions that cannot be delegated, and appointing a Prime Minister is one of them. One palace source said that if the Queen were to be experiencing an episodic mobility problem next week and the plan had been for her to travel to London or Windsor, it would have meant alternative arrangements being made at the last minute. Fears over the Queen's health have increased in recent weeks after it was reported that the Prince of Wales has been making regular morning visits to see his mother. Royal commentator Margaret Holder said, "Next Monday is set to be a milestone in British political history, with the outgoing and incoming Prime Minister visiting the Queen at Balmoral rather than the usual location of Buckingham Palace." To avoid putting the Queen to the unnecessary strain of making the 800-mile round trip, the politicians will go to her for the traditional farewell of the current Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, and the introductory meeting with the new one, Rishi Sunak or Liz Truss. It is an understandable concession to a woman of 96 who has given this country and the Commonwealth over 70 years of service. And it also underlines her determination to do her duty as long as she is able to. Buckingham Palace has declined to give an ongoing commentary on the monarch's health. During her Platinum Jubilee celebrations, the Queen only travelled to Buckingham Palace twice, first for her Trooping the Colour balcony appearance and then for a finale after the pageant. Commenting on the decision, ex-BBC royal correspondent Peter Hunt said, "The fact officials can't be sure the Queen will be well enough to travel next week is yet another reminder of her advanced age and increasing frailty." Despite this, the Queen remains determined to carry out her core duties. Appointing a new Prime Minister is not something that can easily be passed to Prince Charles, a king-in-waiting. The Queen normally spends the months of August and September at her Highlands retreat, where she is joined by other family members at stages. Prince William and Kate and their children, Prince George, 9, Princess Charlotte, 7, and Prince Louis, 4, are among those who have already been to see her at Balmoral this year. But Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are not expected to visit her when they come to the UK next week for the One Young World Summit in Manchester on Monday. But the Earl and Countess of Wessex and their children Lady Louise and Viscount James have been to visit the Queen, and Prince Charles is said to be visiting her daily. Prince Andrew has also been at Balmoral. Her Majesty was last seen in public on July 21, when she flew to Aberdeen Airport to begin her annual holiday in Scotland. Every leader bar one has been appointed at Buckingham Palace since the reign of Queen Victoria, according to constitutional expert Professor Vernon Bogdaner. The only exception was in 1908, when Herbert Henry Asquith travelled to Edward VII in the French city of Biarritz for his appointment. Usually, the outgoing Prime Minister makes a statement outside Downing Street before taking their final trip as leader to meet the Queen at Buckingham Palace. The monarch then formally dismisses them from their role. Shortly after, the incoming Prime Minister is called up. When a potential Prime Minister is called to see the Queen, she will ask them whether they will form a government. After the new Prime Minister has been appointed, The court circular will record that the Prime Minister kissed hands on appointment. This is usually a handshake, and the actual kissing of hands will take place later at the Privy Council. It is then the new leader's turn to deliver a speech outside No. 10. The audiences at Balmoral will take place in the estate's drawing room. Professor Bogner told the BBC there was no constitutional reason for the location of appointing a new Prime Minister. He said, "The Queen would, I imagine, shake hands with the new PM and perhaps discuss the problems that will be faced. There is no constitutional reason why the new PM should not be appointed in Balmoral. Indeed, some might think it pointless for the Queen at her age to travel to London for a purely formal ceremony." Audiences at Balmoral will take place in the estate's drawing room. Professor Bogner told the BBC there was no constitutional reason for the location of appointing a new Prime Minister. He said, "The Queen would, I imagine, shake hands with the new PM and perhaps discuss the problems that will be faced. There is no constitutional reason why the new PM should not be appointed in Balmoral. Indeed, some might think it pointless for the Queen at her age to travel to London for a purely formal ceremony,